Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert.
And Ryan.
And it's been a little bit of a delay since our last video because I got really sick for like almost a month, and then I just got lazy for the next month. So
I mean, yeah, it was you went on a trip, you got sick. We didn't do it the following weekend because you were still sick. I had plans. I was going to a concert, and then it just sort of fell out of habit.
yeah, which happens. You know, it's been the holidays. We've just been over here eating, getting fat.
And there wasn't any new Disney Plus show going on keeping us active. We never finished What If.
We didn't, but we'll get to it, guys. What we're gonna
Probably.
do right now, though, is a new format, something we're gonna try out, and our main focus today is a fall movie roundup. As of to today, when we're doing this recording, November 28th, basically the end of fall-ish, kind of, yeah.
And this list basically begins towards the beginning of September. Basically, movies that came out after Shang-Chi, but up until today, the Thanksgiving holiday weekend.
Yeah.
4 movies that we have seen. So there's only going to be about 15 movies total. A lot more movies came out. I'm sure we missed out on something great, but...
Yeah, certainly. But, you know, we can't catch them all. I bet us having watched about 15 movies, I think...
Probably more than most people have watched.
Yeah, everybody's going to be like, how did you find time to watch that many movies? And I'd say because we really like them, so...
Yeah, I'm actually bummed that I didn't. I was looking at the movies that came out. I'm like, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I see that? What?
Yeah. I thought the same thing. And we will be doing a summer movie review coming out sometime soon-ish, but This one's more relevant. So we wanted to put this out sooner first. So perhaps you can see some of these in theaters.
Some of them have just come out this weekend. So
yeah. So we will go back to as early as we have. And I think Ryan is going to get us started off. Oh, before we start though, important thing. This is intended for all these movies to be a spoiler-free review. So you can listen to this, make your own judgments based on our comments, and perhaps go see it yourself. However, at the end, we're going to come back to a few of these movies and do a spoiler-including review. So you'll have the, obviously, forewarning and be able to listen to most of this without a spoiler. But yeah, there's your forewarning. Towards the end, you'll probably want to skip some of these if you don't want those spoilers.
But yeah, as you said, we're going to start off with no spoilers, which for my first movie that I'm going to talk about, it's going to be hard to not do spoilers. So when we do get into spoiler talk, this is definitely one I want to hit upon, even though you haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're going to see it. My first movie is Malignant, the most recent horror creation from the mind of James Wan, who has a history of quite good horror movies. He's responsible for the first Saw movie, the first Insidious movie, the first Conjuring movie. Easily some of the 3 greatest horror films of the new millennium. 2 of them are my all-time favorite horror movies, The Conjuring and Insidious. And so expectations get a little high going into this movie, even though it didn't really... The movie itself didn't intrigue me to go watch it. It was the fact that James Wan made it that made me want to go watch it. And the plot of the movie follows this woman who starts having these dreams, these visions of watching people being murdered. And it's just an exploration on that happening. And the reason I want to talk about spoilers for this movie is that the explanation for why she's seeing these things is pretty fucking wild. Yeah, without being able to talk about that, I can only say that this is honestly kind of a mediocre horror movie for the most part. It's well shot. It looks nice. I get the creative conceit of the movie is good. But it's not very scary. There's about one scene that like almost made me like jump a little, where there's like a woman in this like sort of like cave, like a tourist destination, like cave at night, and there's just like a dark tunnel she's looking at. That's probably the one standout like moment where I felt like tension. But overall, it's not that scary of a movie. And the creative conceit of the movie, like the twist, was so interesting to me that I think it made it worth the experience. So I almost would recommend it, but I almost would just recommend finding out what the twist is and being like, oh, that's weird. And what I will say without the spoiler is that the title of the movie, Malignant, technically gives away what the twist is. Like when you know what the twist is, the title of the movie makes sense. But if I had to give a letter grade to the movie, I say like a C+.
All right. Yeah. I have no intention of ever watching that. I don't care that much for, horror movies in particular. So if it's an average, mediocre one, I'm certainly not going to spend any time on it.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think this is a quality horror movie, but I think the conceit, the twist of the movie is interesting. Like in a similar way that the movie Old from the summer, which if we do a summer review, I definitely want to talk about Old. It's not a good horror movie, but it's so bonkers that I that's a movie I would recommend before Malignant.
Right. Well, yeah. On to our next one.
Number 2. That's a you.
Dear Evan Hansen. Right. This is apparently a adaptation of a Broadway play.
Yes.
And it's a musical, but like a really dark sort of dour musical. It deals with just like a really sensitive subject and sort of a uplifting message and all this and that. I saw this with relatively low expectations. I thought that it did give me, it did hit me emotionally a bit. So, I mean, bravo on that. The singing and performance is pretty well done. The main actor does a pretty great job at evoking the emotions that he's feeling. You really, you see in his face, and
he's the guy who originated the role on Broadway.
Yeah. So, which, interesting, or maybe not that interesting. I think the guy's actually like 30 something, and he's supposed to be playing a high schooler.
I think he is like late 20s, but he looks it. He doesn't look like a high schooler.
Yeah. He's got like a, not very well hidden 5 o'clock shadow the whole movie.
And a receding hairline.
Yeah. So, but, nonetheless, I thought it was a pretty decent film.
I actually recall you going to see it and you coming back and saying that you thought it was, well, you had a great time, that it was really enjoyable.
I did go in with lower expectations.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I was like, wow, like that was actually something. It just got me emotionally, which is it's that kind of movie, right? And I think there's a lot to be criticized. Ryan even mentioned off the podcast that apparently somebody was like, this guy's a sociopath. I
think that's a common perception of this movie for the critics and reviews, because the movie didn't get very good reviews.
Yeah.
And from what I know of the plot, it doesn't sound there's a reason that you went and saw this movie with our dad on my birthday, and it's because I did not want to watch it.
Yeah. He had free tickets. So
and it was a great conceit for him to see the movie with me for my birthday, because I like to go see movies on my birthday. But I chose to not watch a movie rather than watch this movie.
Yeah.
Because I knew what it was enough that I knew I didn't want to watch it.
Yeah. Going into it, it was a movie I would not have bought tickets for, but having seen it for free was more satisfied with it. And had I bought, I thought to myself, had I bought tickets, I actually wouldn't have been mad. This would not have been felt like a waste of my money. Like one of these movies, I will say, definitely felt like why did I spend money on these tickets?
I'm curious what that will be.
Oh, yeah, I think you already know. But
I hope not.
So this movie, though, if you can get past the potential, the feeling of that this guy's a sociopath, and take sort of the message and what it is. I think it can hit you right there in the heartstrings a little bit.
You need to go in not cynical with that movie if you want to enjoy it. And I knew I was going to go into it very cynically, and that's why I knew I shouldn't watch it.
Yeah. But letter grade, I give it like a B-, which might sound sort of harsh, but it's not. It's moving and pretty good, but it's not amazing. It's way better than I thought it'd be. I thought it could be. I might even give it a B. But I think an average person would probably agree with me saying B-. and if you really enjoy it, B plus. But I think B would be relatively fair for that movie. So,
You're up next.
Yeah. Next, Many Saints in Newark.
The Sopranos movie.
Yeah.
I haven't watched The Sopranos, so I haven't watched this movie.
Yeah. This movie is really simple. One, don't go see it if you haven't seen The Sopranos. You're just going to, all the significance is lost. This movie is like a C- if you haven't seen The Sopranos. But if you have seen The Sopranos, there's so many references and things of significance in this movie that it makes it better for that fact. If you have seen The Sopranos, you'll probably this is probably more like a B plus movie, right? Just because you're gonna get all those little things that are being dropped, and otherwise it's just kind of like this simple sort of story about like a sort of mafia family adjacent and some activities are doing. But yeah, this movie is made to be watched by people that watched and like The Sopranos. So don't go see it if you haven't seen The Sopranos. You won't enjoy it that much. B plus if you have.
One thing, I haven't heard much about this movie, but I'm sort of curious. How does the main guy do? Because that's his actual son, right? The Tony's actor's son.
Yes, I believe so. Tony. And I mean, I thought he did. I think I've heard other people agree that, like, as far as somebody playing a young Tony Soprano, I think he did a really good job. You kind of see this like not fully formed version of Tony Soprano, but like that he has some of the mannerisms and the things that you can see will develop into the person that Tony Soprano is in The Sopranos.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought it was really good. Again, but this movie loses. The main point is this movie loses all significance if you didn't like The Sopranos or you didn't see it. Don't see this movie. If you did, it's good. B plus. Good.
All right. So number 4, I believe we both watched this movie. I would hope most people watch this movie. It's the biggest box office movie of the fall season.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Venom, at least domestically.
Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So I really enjoyed this movie, but I also quite enjoyed the first Venom, despite it being not good for the first half of it. I think this movie is I think the second half of the first Venom movie is more engaging and interesting than either halves of this movie, but the collective 2 halves of this movie are more interesting than the collective 2 halves of the first movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought the first Venom was pretty cool, decent representation of Venom and everything. Tom Hardy's good in this movie. It's hard for me to put words on the things that didn't quite hit it for me, but I thought this movie was okay, pretty good. Like the fact that it's a movie about Venom and it has Carnage carries a little bit of, ooh, that's cool. Which moved this into a higher rating for me than if I just gave it, like, if this didn't have notable characters in it that gave my draw. So
I feel like this movie could have been. I appreciate that this movie is much more violent and much bloodier than the first one, but I still feel like it could have gotten more violent with the Carnage. Like, I think we get one good scene of Carnage when he's escaping prison, but from then on, like, he might like occasionally like flip a car, but he's not as like Carnage-y as one might think. He's very like focused in getting a job done, and then he's like, woo, let's go get Venom.
Yeah, so I almost would agree. I kind of would have liked to have seen more out of it. Again, it was cool, but this could have been better.
Yeah,
frankly,
I agree with that, but the highlight of the movie, as always, is Tom Hardy's portrayal as Eddie Brock, but more so his portrayal of Venom. Because Venom gets a lot of solo time in this movie, and it's delightful, and I love Venom. And it's this movie also, and I believe the director, blanking on the director's name, he's Gollum though.
He's the guy that plays Gollum in Lord of the Rings is what he means.
Yeah, he's Gollum.
Yeah.
But I believe he's even said as much that that the movie is like a romance between the two. It's a relationship movie between these two. And the movie has a pretty explicitly like gay coming out scene in the middle of it.
Andy Serkis,
that's the director. Yeah. But Venom has a straight up coming out scene in the middle of this movie, and basically they're just like, "Hey, we Sony, we want gay dollars, and they'll get my gay dollars."
Yeah, one thing I want to say is that like Woody Harrelson, right, seemed like a really cool pick for Cletus Cassidy, and it's not like to say that his performance was not good, but I just don't know that like the way they had him portraying Cletus Cassidy was like
he's too sympathetic. Cletus Cassidy should be like more of like a like monster, I think.
A little, yeah. I almost thought he should be more just straight psychotic.
Yeah, like
you literally feel you're like, oh wow, like him acting all crazy is like semi-justified. And
exactly.
We don't want that. I just like, as far as I understand, Cletus Cassidy was just a straight up psychotic murderer.
Yeah, he can be in love with this lady and still be the murderer. But in this, it's very much Carnage is it is a lot more evil than Cletus is, which is weird because Carnage is born of Cletus. So it should be some amplification of Cletus. It just doesn't. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, yeah, Woody Harrelson's probably too sympathetic of a character to be playing it. He's also too old to be playing this character because they really expect me to believe that Woody Harrelson was a teenager in the early 90s. And that's just not, I just don't believe that.
Yeah, we need somebody more like Elijah Wood. He plays a really good psycho.
There are plenty of people that could have done a probably better job.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, for a couple of those reasons, my rating is B-.
And my rating is an A-.
Yeah. And
because I had a great time.
I had a good time too, but it's not as here's the thing, and this is almost how I treat a lot of Marvel films now, or Disney films in general. I'm like, the bar is high. Okay, you got Venom, you got Carnage. This movie should easily be a great movie. It is the failing of them to put together a really great story if it's not.
Well, this isn't a Disney movie.
Yeah, I know it's not a Disney movie, but still, the IP is strong. Right?
Yeah, the IP is strong.
And I'm judging it the same way I would a Marvel or Disney movie. I'm like, you got Marvel, you got Star Wars, you got like things that are so powerful just in and of themselves, right? Venom and Carnage, like those are iconic characters. You have to kind of fuck it up a little bit for it to not be, very strong. That's why I'm like, B- is like, it's not really that bad to me. I mean, it's on the lower side of good. B is any B rating for me.
I would actually argue that this movie, though, is better for not being tied to Disney and the MCU, because I think if it was like an MCU movie, it'd be less violent and Carnage would be even goofier and they would try to make him even more of a nuanced character.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah. And so I think that I kind of think this is the best case scenario. And you also I think it's fair to judge the movie based on the source material, but I think it's more fair to judge it based off of the movie that came before it. And as a sequel to the Venom movie we had, knowing what kind of movie that movie is, I think that this is kind of a best case scenario sequel to that first movie.
Yeah. So that's pretty much my rating for it. I will say one thing, and this isn't really a spoiler, but it is a comment. One, there is an after credit scene.
Oh yes.
And
you gotta watch that.
The after credit scene is the best part of the movie.
The after credit scene alone is an A+ scene.
Yeah, it is an A+ scene. It's an absolute, it was like a clap in the theater scene. So
also, one thing I do want to quickly address in regards to my personal letter grading system, when I do a letter grade, that's sort of like how much I'd enjoy watching the movie or how much I recommend the movie. I kind of think of it differently than I would a number rating system. If I were to give like a number on a scale of 1 to 10, then I'm going to think about the quality of the film. And Venom 2 is more like a 7.5 on that scale. But in terms of a recommendation to go watch and enjoyability factor, I give it an A-.
My rating system here encompasses sort of like all my feeling, right? I might say like this is a pretty good fit. Like with Many Saints in Newark, I try to give it 2 different ratings, right? If you like Sopranos, this is a movie for this, like how much you're gonna enjoy it. If you didn't, this is just like how the movie lands on its own. Like it's like really like I might have actually said C plus. I'm not saying Newark. It's like a C movie if you didn't watch The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Like it's just like okay. It's probably not even worth your time to go watch if you just don't watch it. But nonetheless, let's move on to our next one, which is No Time to Die.
I have not seen it. I've seen 0 James Bond movies.
That's okay. That's fair. This is the final Daniel Craig James Bond film.
As far as we know.
In my opinion, and I have also seen some like reviews and things after this talking about the movie. In my opinion, right? Having seen, I think I don't know if it's 4 or 5.
This is his 5th movie.
Yeah, 5 Daniel Craig films. I've seen 3 of them. I'm missing one of them. And
is it Quantum or Spectre?
It's Spectre. It's one of the other bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quantum of Solace and Spectre are the 2 bad ones. Casino Royale and Skyfall are the 2 good ones.
Yeah. This is my second favorite of the 4 that I have seen.
Casino Royale favorite?
Casino Royale being favorite, just like solid, good, really good movie. This one I just thought was really good. It just gave me everything that, like, in some of these other James Bond, Daniel Craig James Bond films, it was just kind of like going on these. It wasn't giving me the thing that I expect from James Bond. This movie felt like a James Bond movie to the core. It gave me all these things, like kind of the throwbacks to the classic Bond stuff, and just ended in a way that I felt was like final and satisfying for me. That's my opinion. So I give it a B plus. Right, I think there maybe are things that could have been done better with the plot.
One thing I've heard is that one criticism I've heard of the movie is that Rami Malek is not the best Bond villain. He's not particularly new or interesting.
Yeah, and I will say there's some things that they do with the plot and like choices, especially with him as a villain, that sort of like take this from being a better movie and diminish it, which is why it's a B plus. But I still thought it was good enough. Seeing it in theaters was cool and fun. I did like seeing it in theaters. So B plus for me.
Lit. Oh, this next one's going to be a fun one. Number 6, Halloween Kills.
I referenced a movie earlier that I wish I hadn't paid for.
Oh, okay. Thank God that this is it. Yeah. I thought you were talking about something else that I like a lot.
Yeah. Halloween Kills. This movie, IMO, terrible.
See, yeah.
Truly not good.
I almost want to recommend it as a bad movie to go watch, because I think some of the kills in the movie are genuinely funny. I think billing it as like a comedy makes it a better movie. Almost, it's not a horror movie.
Yeah, it's literally
there's so many murders in this movie, and I cannot call it a horror movie.
Yeah, I will say that it has some really great kills, and those are one of the things that are nice about it. But this movie, plot-wise, literally tries to go run 3 different stories at the same time and sort of just fails in all of them. And it's like, it's literally laughable. And even the movie's almost not taking itself seriously. Clearly not taking itself seriously, but then also tries to take itself very seriously.
I don't think you understand that evil dies tonight.
Yeah.
The amount of times they said that for something to happen at the end that I won't get into right now because that's a spoiler conversation.
Yeah.
As a horror movie, this is a D.
Yeah. Straight up D.
As a comedy, C plus, B minus.
Yeah. If you go and just expect it to be like a straight murder laugh fest, you'd enjoy it almost better that way. But this was truly disappointing.
For like a big budget, like major horror franchise, this is
IP. Yeah, strong IP. You got Michael Myers, Halloween, coming off the back of
Jamie Lee Curtis is sitting in a hospital bed for most of this movie, and the only time she gets up is for her to then injure herself again and go back in the hospital bed.
Yeah, and there was even I'm just saying the trailers tried to sell you something that wasn't happening. Again, this might be a little spoilery, but they sell you on the idea that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be like a big part of this movie too, right? She was a big part of the last movie.
Yeah.
No,
think so.
Just FYI, Jamie Lee Curtis goes to the hospital and gets up to walk around and then like even acts like she's going to do something and then just doesn't make it out of the hospital because she is so injured. Clearly so injured. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how anybody expected her to get out of the hospital. I would have accepted that she was such a badass that she just grunted her way through it. But then the movie was like, no, she actually doesn't. She just actually is so injured she can't leave this hospital. And it didn't really matter. Like she could have just not been in the movie and it wouldn't have mattered.
I almost want to say more talking on this for the spoiler talk because I just want to talk about
Yeah, let's do that. This movie's not very good. It's a straight D. The kills are the best thing about it. There's a bunch of good kills, but I mean, there's a bunch of other movies you could probably watch someone die equally gruesome and horrifying, and actually have a decent plot going on with it. So, bad movie, skip. Don't waste your money. It's not in theaters anymore. Honestly, probably don't even buy it on DVD. Maybe that's not nice, but that's just how I felt. Like,
if it is free on like HBO Max and you have that or something, I recommend that.
Yeah, I mean, just for the sake of like, if you like all the Halloween movies and want to just,
it's like a fun sort of like, just treat it as like a little campy thing, like on like a weekend night, like with a date or something, and just have a good time.
And I will say that a part of this is, I think expectation is always sort of, keys into how you enjoy a movie, right? If you go in with low expectations and it's better than you expected, then it makes it that much better. This is a movie that I will admit that I kind of had higher expectations for. I thought it was going to be good.
I kind of didn't. I kind of expected it to be a middle movie between two connecting other movies. And so I kind of went into this like, what's going to happen? Is nothing going to happen in this movie? And nothing happened.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's that movie. Let's move on to a movie that we could speak far more highly of.
Yeah, kind of the opposite take on from the last one. The Last Duel, Ridley Scott's first period piece film that he directed, starring Adam Driver, to come out in the fall of 2021.
Yeah, Matt Damon, Adam Driver, and chick that's in the Free Guy movie, whose name I don't know, but
Jodie Comer, I want to say.
Yeah, nonetheless, this movie is amazing. It's nearly, I don't know if it's I think, what did we say
Jodie
before?
Comer.
What did we say before? Maybe it's not flaw. Is this a movie where we came up with the phrase where we said it might not be flawless, it's not perfect, but it's flawless.
Yeah.
This movie is so good. This is honestly an A+ movie. I mean, like, I want to try and find more criticism and say like it doesn't do this or that right, but it's just so good. It delivers the movie in an interesting format that I don't really even want to talk about, because I felt not knowing how it was going to be delivered made it a little better for me.
I plan to make and I would hope it's a podcast format. I plan for there to be a end of the year list thing. So I want to go more into this movie at that point when I'll reveal where it is on that list. But A+ is that is fully valid. I'd say 100%. It is the better of Ridley Scott's two movies, easily. If there's anything to criticize, it's that the Matt Damon section of the movie, because it's broken off into three sections. I'd say the Matt Damon section of the movie is the weakest of the three, but I kind of think that helps, because you get this like very self-serious section, and when you get that followed up with the Adam Driver, like Ben Affleck section of the movie, which is like just like it changes your pace of the whole movie. It changes how you're thinking things. And then the third section, like, kind of like then flips that again. And it all just comes together so perfectly.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. And so, I mean, we watched this movie a little while ago, and I still have not come up with any reason to say it was any less than an A+ movie, in my opinion. So.
A+, if you haven't seen it, go see it. Like, Ridley Scott's blaming your cell phone for this movie not doing well, and that's wrong. I think this movie was very poorly advertised. I saw trailers for this movie, and it looked like a boring, like old slog movie. I had no interest in this movie based on the trailer. So if you did not watch it, I don't blame you. But please watch it.
Yeah, it's just that good. I thought it looked pretty cool from the trailers and stuff, but I also didn't really even know exactly what I was getting into. So I had low expectations.
It looked like it was all about the joust, and the joust appears at the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's actually the least important part. The duel is actually the least important part, even though it's
when it gets to the duel, though, yeah, it's a pretty good scene.
It becomes incredibly emotionally charged.
It's probably the best duel I've seen on screen.
Yeah. And also, just a side fact about it, this movie is historically accurate.
Yeah, based on a true story, just like his other period piece.
Yeah,
which will be our last movie today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our next movie is probably one of the bigger blockbuster budget movies, Dune.
Timmy Chalamet.
Yeah, just a list of high notable actors in it. High. What am I saying?
Recognizable, notable actors. I think that's fair to say. If you watch the honest trailer for this movie, it goes through how many of them just are there only to die.
Yeah. But
which is spoilery, but I'm not telling you which ones die.
Hey, check it out. It's based on a book that's been out since
the 60s.
the 60s, and there's another movie that also exists of it from the 80s. So, hey, we're not trying to spoil anything here, but like if we comment that people die in the movie or whatever, you can't be too mad at this here.
Here's the spoiler that shouldn't be a spoiler because it's just deceptive advertising. Zendaya spends like 6 minutes in this movie.
Yeah, Zendaya is. I've seen the joke, and it was so apt. Is that Zendaya's role in this movie was to advertise her cologne or her perfume. Basically, it's literally just like her standing, turning back to look at you over her shoulder with the sun behind.
The more accurate thing I've heard is that Zendaya being on all of those press tours and being in all that advertising, putting in all that work, is because she knows that her big movie is the sequel. So she needs this one to succeed for her to be in the next movie where she actually gets to do something.
Yeah. This movie is big, like huge,
beautiful, great. If you're going to watch it in a theater.
My criticism of the movie is that it feels like the first of a few movies, and it doesn't. It literally just kind of comes to a end that doesn't feel like a good end.
I also think it's manipulative that the movie was advertised as Dune, and I knew it was going to be a part 1 of 2. But the fact that when you get into the movie, it says Dune Part 1, but it never advertises the movie as Dune Part 1. It was always Dune. This is the definitive Dune.
Yeah.
And it is very much just a part 1. It's probably... like, I haven't seen the second half of it, and I haven't seen the original Dune. And so when I left this movie, I was like, you know what? That was really cool. Great experience. Fun. Liked it. But like, the more I think about it, the more disappointed I am that it kind of went not anywhere. And it was just a big ball of setup. Like, I've seen movies that are billed as part 1 of 2 before. And I think that this is probably the least interesting of any of those part 1 of 2 movies, because usually those movies come towards the end of a franchise you're already invested in or you already know something about.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of people that have read the books and seen the old movie and have the idea of what this movie's supposed to be.
And they probably love this.
Yeah, and maybe they really like seeing those things represented. But here's what I literally heard when we were coming out of the theater after watching this. Is an older guy say, man, that wasn't even a third of the book that I read. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. So like this movie is barely the beginning, which is exactly how it feels. And also it has this Blade Runner 2077 vibe.
It's same director, Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah. It's huge and big. And there's just like scenes of nothing happening, but like loud music. And it feels epic because of that. But also there's just a lot of, I'm just saying you could have cut all those scenes in half and added a little more like moving the plot along to the movie. And even just got us to a place where I felt like the movie closes a little better. And it doesn't just kind of be like, okay, here we are, wait until the next movie now.
Yeah.
And because of that for a movie that I was sort of excited to see and it seemed it was going to be really big and cool. And it was, but it could have been better.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I'm happy to have seen it. I'm excited for the next one, but I feel like the quality of this movie is going to hinge upon how good the next one is. And that's a problem for a first movie in the series.
Yeah.
Like saying that Deathly Hallows Part 1 is the worst Harry Potter movie, which I'm not even sure if it is, but it's probably down there as one of the lesser ones. That doesn't matter because there were 6 movies that came before it that made you still invested in that movie.
Yeah.
And you knew that the next one was probably going to be good and worth this setup that you just watched. I don't know what the next movie's going to be. I don't know if I'm even then invested in the plot as it stands with little Timmy Chalamet Jesus boy.
Yeah.
I like him.
I want to say, and both of our comments here are coming from Ryan has never read the book or seen that old movie. I never read the book. And I did see that old movie, but I was so young that I barely remember it, and only basically knew the general references of Dune. And I also played like a Dune video game that was like Command and Conquer style, so I knew some things, but I didn't know this actual plot. Like everything that was playing in the movie was relatively new to me.
I knew of the spice melange.
Yeah, spice melange, sandworms. You know, I knew that there was like houses fighting against each other, sand people, basically. Yeah.
Star Wars-esque in ways.
Yeah.
I mean, Star Wars took itself from Dune in many ways.
But yeah, so my rating for this movie is, because it was big and because there was a lot of cool stuff, but the story just isn't sufficient. It's a B.
Yeah, leaving the theater, I think I was a B+. Cooling off on it. And again, if you're not going to watch it in the theater, I think in the theater it's a B+. If you're watching it on HBO Max, B-.
Yeah,
because you're just missing something.
Yeah, exactly. Like the bigness of it is what made it so cool. Like Blade Runner 2077, which also kind of suffered from a not amazing plot, but was so epic that it added to it a little bit. And this movie is kind of the same. If you watch it at home and not some badass sound system with a huge TV, you're kind of missing out.
Yeah, very fair.
So next we have Last Night in Soho,
the newest film from director Edgar Wright, who I have not seen all of his movies, but every movie I've seen of his, I've either liked or loved.
Yeah. This movie, this is one where I really want us to stay away from any kind of spoiler, because it has a sort of a twist going on. It's like this mystery sort of thriller movie.
I don't even think I want to really bring it up in the spoiler discussion, because I don't want to chance that someone listening to this hasn't seen that movie and just wants a spoiler. Anyways, go see the movie.
Yeah,
I'm recommending this like right out the gate, like A- probably.
Yep.
I'm going to give this.
That's exactly what
I think. I think there are flaws to this movie, but it is enjoyable. It honestly had probably, like, with the amount of horror movies I've seen this year, this is the only movie to like make me jump at something.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. It's not even a horror movie, but like it has like thriller, like elements to it, and it does almost border on a horror movie, like especially later in.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a totally original script, but it feels original, right? This idea, how they're presenting this sort of thing, it's not really something that I've necessarily seen before.
Yeah, it feels like a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. And there's things about it that are like, because it's very 60s nostalgic, so there's stuff that feels familiar, but still new.
Yeah, and it's just got this cool, I mean, I personally really appeal to mystery type movies where there's some kind of question, right? Or some unknown thing that makes me in the audience like wanting to know, wanting to figure out what's happening. And by the end of the movie has plenty of foreshadowing to the sort of twist or the ending, right? And you look back and go, oh, right. But I was still fooled though. I still kind of thought I was looking the direction they wanted me to look in while at the end they turned me around to see what was really happening. So A-. I mean, and that's only because I know that there's probably something not, there's probably some flaws to this movie, but when I was watching it, I was so engrossed in it that I couldn't even like pay attention to them that much.
There's a character who's friends with the main character of the movie, and he kind of feels like he's just there to help her and has no existence as an individual whatsoever.
Yeah, so he's really just a plot device, and then because of that,
and you'll know exactly who I'm talking about when you see the movie. But the lead actress's performance, I've seen her in other things, and I think she's very promising. I think she'll do good things, be in good movies. Anya Taylor-Joy, though, like there's just something about her. She's got the it factor. Anytime I see her, love her. Like she's just got that something that makes her great to watch.
Yep. So yeah, good movie. A-. Go see it.
Number 10. Oh,
Eternals.
This is what I was worried you said that.
No.
No. Okay.
It's a Marvel movie. I still would have paid to see it no matter what. But we had coming out of this movie, we had a sort of divisive opinion of it, and I still have not changed. I still feel like what I thought when I left was valid, which was that the movie sort of, I had mentioned before, IP, right? Marvel. These are lesser known characters, but you have a The director coming off of a 2 Oscar win, and you have a bunch of notable.
To be fair, that this movie was made before the Oscar win, though.
Yeah,
but this is the next film to come out after.
Yeah,
you are correct.
You have a list of notable actors, some of them A-list.
One of them A-list.
Arguably more than one of them, potentially, depending on your definition of A-list. But you have a bunch of notable. You have Robb Stark and Jon Snow, right? Do you know their names? No, but you know exactly who I'm talking about right now.
I think a lot of people know Kit Harington.
Yeah, maybe they do. Okay, but nonetheless, you have some big names in the roles.
Kumail Nanjiani, Salma Hayek. We love to see them. We love them.
Yeah, you have all these. You have a lot going for this movie, right? The one maybe downside is that I would say the majority of people, even if you like the Marvel universe, don't necessarily know what the Eternals are, but it's okay. You get the introduction.
Yeah.
This movie has a lot going for it, and for me, it just does not deliver the way that I would hope. And my bar is high for Marvel, really. Like you should be doing good movies every time, and it doesn't deliver the way I expected.
I think one of the biggest things that makes me almost makes me get more adamant that I think this is a good movie is seeing that it's the worst reviewed MCU movie. And I've seen not every MCU movie, but the vast majority. I've only missed 2, and the 2 that I missed, I assume are probably not as good as this one. But I've seen Marvel movies that are not as good as this.
Which ones are the ones you haven't seen?
Iron Man 3 and The Incredible Hulk.
Those are, I'm pretty sure those are actually 2 of the lower ranked movies as well. And
yeah,
Thor: The Dark World,
but they're better reviewed than this movie somehow.
Yeah, Thor: The Dark World, I think it was one of the worst ones as well before this.
But they're all certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes except for this one.
Yeah,
which is just wild. It's just bonkers to me. Like, even if I admit there's a ton of flaws in this movie, but even with all that, it's enjoyable. I left the movie. I saw this movie twice. I left it the first time feeling like with all these new characters who I didn't get to spend maybe as much time with as I would want, I got a connection to all of them, and I like every Eternal, quite frankly. I like all of these newly introduced characters, even the ones that don't make it through the movie. Spoiler.
Yeah, because some of them don't make it through the movie. I guess,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of a spoiler, but it's not that big spoilery. Yeah, it's just, I even coming out of the theater, I haven't seen it a second time. I kind of did mean to go see it a second time to be able to really solidify my thoughts on it. But something about it, by the end of the movie, I was just not nearly as impressed, or I felt like there was a lot of, somewhat, it's just hard for me to put my finger on it, but this movie did not hit the mark for me.
I think it's messy in a lot of ways. I think there's stuff that didn't need to be there. I think the plot with the monster things, I can't remember, the deviants. I think the deviant plot's a bit, it's not all the way there, but I think the second time watching the movie made me like the movie more, because while I didn't get enough time growing to like these characters the first time, watching it the second time, I felt more strongly that while there's not enough time with all the characters, I think every actor knows who their character is and plays them so well enough that I know exactly who these people are.
Yeah. I really would like to go watch the movie a second time, and then I think it'd be worth us doing a whole nother podcast just about that one and just really debating on why we think things are that. I think it could deserve, I mean, it's a Marvel film and we've done all of them so far. I think it would deserve that. But as it stands right now, my unnuanced and just reactionary opinion was B-. And that's, again, you have a lot going for it, but the fact that it had so much going for it, and I give it a B-, lower than some of these, other films that had less going on. That's like, again, go see it, guys. But yeah, I'm not in love with it.
And look, I'll admit that I'm the first person to recommend this movie and say that it's great. I'm giving it an A-. It's not, even for me, I can't say that it's like a perfect, definitely C.
Now I have to ask you the same question I asked you when you said that last time you told me that. This is the same rating as Shang-Chi?
I think I actually am going to bump Shang-Chi up to an A.
Honestly, and right here, I think we both settled on A- for Shang-Chi. In review, having watched it twice also, And I actually watched like half of it, like not, you know, when it came on Disney Plus, I just put it on the background again. I was just like, man, this was such a good movie. I would say Shang-Chi is an A. It does. If you give this Eternals an A-, Shang-Chi has to be an A.
Yeah, like I like in terms of film quality, Shang-Chi is a better movie. Which one did I want to go see a second time? Eternals. So that's a little bit more on me personally, but I believe that most people would say Shang-Chi is a better film.
Okay, so moving on from Eternals, I have one that Brian has not seen, and I'll give it a relatively there's not a lot I can say about it. Belfast. I don't know how many people even went to go watch this movie. It's filmed in black and white by an Irish director,
Kenneth Branagh. He's quite notable.
Yeah, I don't, Ryan's a smart one here, guys. He actually knows people and things. I don't know anything. I just talk about stuff.
He directed Thor. He's the guy that did the Murder on the Orient Express. He's like the director in that. He's the detective in that, and it's also his movie.
Oh, cool.
If you had to watch a Hamlet movie in high school when you read Hamlet, it's probably his Hamlet that you saw, the one with Kate Winslet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. This movie was actually like totally didn't expect. I got the movie ticket for free, like one of those pre-screenings. So I saw it like 2 days before it came out in theaters, and was completely not knowing anything about what this movie's about. This movie does a good job of introducing you to it without just having an exposition dump. There's no point where anybody just sits down and says, here's all the things you need to know, right? But you understand by watching the movie sort of what's going on and connect with the characters. And this kid, who's really the main character of the movie,
and based on the real life Kenneth as a child,
steals the show. Like, what a fantastic young actor. I think he's got a lot ahead of him just with his small performance here. I mean, not small, but and yeah, this was a movie I didn't even know what to expect, and it kind of just blew me away. So if you care, I'd say it's actually worth going to see. Though I will say this isn't quite, it's sort of like it's a period piece and a sort of slice of life, and looking at a historical event from the perspective of people living through it, that as an American, you probably have no idea what it's about. I went and looked it up afterwards.
Yeah.
But if you want to look it up prior to, it might actually make it more significant. But it's about the Troubles, right? A time called the Troubles in Ireland during I think it's like the 1960s and 70s.
And it's a conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants.
Yeah, basically. That's the basics of it. That's not a spoiler. I mean, it's just historical information that might give you context of the movie. Without knowing that at all, though, you understand. You just get it. So this movie was like I had to give it an A-, and the only reason A- is because there's the first maybe 25% of the movie, I am a little like, what's going on? Like, it's still significant, the things you're seeing, but I'm like, the context almost made me lose it. But it was just a really well done movie. So
I can imagine, yeah.
But that's all I got to say about that. Go check it out. And yeah, let's move on to the next one.
Number 12, very different kind of movie.
Yeah.
Red Notice.
Yeah.
Which, if you can't go to the theaters, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it is a Netflix film with just three. Can we say that these are three A-listers?
These three are all A-listers.
Yeah, these are 100%.
Actors. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne Johnson, and oh my God, she's so fucking hot in this movie, Gal Gadot.
Yeah. And I'll say this movie was cool, fun. Everything you expect from these three, but like there was something I just gotta be real, is that like there was it didn't make it into being great for me. Like, I'm just gonna say my rating was like a B+. I was entertained, thought it was good, but there's just something about it that seemed, it's almost like I want to, maybe this is blasphemy here, but it's too Ryan Reynolds-y.
I think there's like this like sheen over the whole movie that like makes it like so like shiny, polished, like it's almost too pretty.
Yeah.
It's like too good, too perfect, too clean.
Yeah.
It is a very clean movie.
Yeah. It's really well done. I say B+, but I would definitely say everybody should go see it. I mean, man, how can you fail? You got just three killers in this movie.
It's a good movie. It's entertaining. It's a fun Netflix watch. That's all I can really say about it, is that it's fun. It's fun.
It's fun. It's a solid movie.
Based on that, like grading system, I'm going to give it an A- because I honestly wasn't even that enthused to watch it. And it's kind of, it's almost like the Uncharted movie that I want to see, that I don't think the Uncharted movie that's going to come out is going to be. I feel like this is better than what the Uncharted movie we're going to get is going to be, basically.
Yeah.
And again, there's twists to it. There's a lot of things in this movie where you expect it to go one way and it subverts your expectations. And I think that's the strongest thing, is that you go into this movie thinking you know what it is, and at a lot of times you don't. And I was caught off guard by many things.
Yeah. So solid movie. Check it out. It's on Netflix for free. So, I mean, and worth the watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Fun date night movie. Definitely.
Yep. All right. Next one that I'm really interested to talk about, Ghostbusters Afterlife. I just want to regurgitate the conversation that Ryan and I already had about this movie. Because I think we kind of condensed the thoughts about it into, a pretty simple way to say it, is that if you saw the Ghostbusters, the original movies, and you like them, this is an A movie.
Yeah, A, solid A, not A+, not A-, A.
If you didn't see the Ghostbusters at all,
don't watch this.
Yeah, don't go watch them first. But this is still a B movie. Like, this is a pretty good movie. If you don't like the Ghostbusters, you just get out of here. You get out of here. What's wrong with you? But yeah, like, even if you didn't like Ghostbusters, this is a movie that honors the original Ghostbusters in a really great way. And
this movie peddles heavily in nostalgia in a lot of ways, but I think it does it very well. I think it does it very tastefully. I don't think that this movie's not getting like the fully best critic reviews, but I think audiences are enjoying it. And it's a movie that I was like I was smiling, having a good time pretty much the whole way. And I went into this movie like a little like cynical, like, I don't know how I'm going to feel. But I think when you start to get the humor of the movie very early on, it tells you what the humor of this movie is. And I was like, this is funny. I found this whole movie funny. It's the funniest movie I've seen this year, easily.
Yeah, it was so entertaining. Literally made ourselves and the whole, like, not the entire theater, but like many people in the theater laughing out loud.
Yeah.
And I was so just very entertained by it.
I think the young lead, the girl in this movie, she does a great job. I think she's very talented in this role. Paul Rudd and Finn Wolfhard, they're in this too. And where I think Finn Wolfhard honestly gets sidelined for a lot of the movie.
He does. You think like he's kind of like a bigger name with Stranger Things and everything, but he's not like quite as featured. He's there. But. And
Paul Rudd honestly serves like the Rick Moranis role in this movie.
He does, which is hilarious. But one thing, so Ryan had told me about how I guess you listened to a podcast, and
I listened to a review of this movie that was very harsh on it. They said that it was like cynically nostalgic and wasn't that funny. And that a choice that they make towards the end of the movie, which I don't want to even get into the spoiler thing again. I think the spoiler at the end of this movie of what happens, I think should be experienced by someone, especially if you like the Ghostbusters and want to go see this movie. But they said that a moment towards the end of this movie was like cynically like distasteful, and I just don't agree.
Yeah, I think one of the things you had said to me, right, was that this that the original, it's not in the spirit of the original Ghostbusters, and the original Ghostbusters was really like tongue in cheek and didn't take itself too seriously.
They said that the original was highly irreverent, and that this movie is highly reverent to that movie.
Yeah,
which they said misses the point. But
here's my really perfect response to that, right? Is that there is a Ghostbusters movie that's also highly irreverent and more in the spirit of the original one, and that was number 3 with the all-female leads, and which I enjoyed that movie, but a lot of people didn't. And
yeah, so I thought that was a good movie.
Yeah, if you wanted a Ghostbusters movie that was like the original Ghostbusters movie, but it was new and modern, that's the movie right there. This movie is a reverent like salute to the original Ghostbusters.
I will say, like, plain and simple, no matter what, and I will take no argument, this is easily the second best Ghostbusters movie. which is not saying that much because Ghostbusters 2 and Ghostbusters 2016 aren't like necessarily the greatest movies ever. But like this is the movie that gets closest to the quality of the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just a good, even if you didn't watch the Ghostbusters, I mean, I went with someone that didn't see the Ghostbusters at all, did not have any reference, and they still really like this movie.
Yeah.
So take that. If you have seen Ghostbusters and you do like Ghostbusters and you haven't seen this movie, what are you doing? It's still in theaters right now. Go see it.
It has only just recently come out when we're recording this, but yeah, point made.
All right. Yeah. Moving on. It's a movie that only I have seen. This one literally just released this week. Again, today being November 28th. Encanto. It's Pixar, right? Or is it Disney Animation Studios?
It's Disney.
Yeah. So, new Disney movie about a magic family in Colombia. And this movie kind of hits some emotional points. It's Disney doing its thing. It's really good. The animation is insane. Like the texture and detail on flowers and like their skin and their hair and their clothes is just, it's wild how good animation is now.
Is it a musical?
It is musical. Yeah.
Okay. I had a feeling it was, but it's always hard to tell. Like if you're not seeing the songs happen.
Yeah. Pretty decent music soundtrack in it, but it's no Moana, no Let It Go, no. There's no song in there that makes me go, wow, that was iconic. But solid, decent songs and everything. It tells a really tight story that's easy to understand, connect with, has strong themes. So it's a pretty solid movie. There is one sort of like when I came out of the movie, I had one glaring criticism that still left the movie being good, but it really diminished what the movie could have been for me.
I'm curious to see that once I see this movie, whether or not I will have enough to say, because I almost want to see if we could do a podcast on just this movie. But if not, if I leave the movie, I'm like, because I'm kind of getting the feeling that it's just going to be like, it looks like it's a good Disney movie, but it doesn't look like a great Disney movie.
It's not a great Disney movie. It's a good one though.
And that's kind of disappointing because definitely like when I see the trailers for it, it does make me feel like a little evocative of Moana. This is a Pixar movie, but Coco because of the Spanish nature of it and the magic of it all. And those are like high. So I think it actually helps to maybe know to go in with this lowered expectations because with Disney, the bar is so high that if you always go in expecting a Moana or a Frozen level quality movie, you're going to be disappointed when something lesser comes out.
Yeah. And there's, the thing is, if you can identify what it is I'm talking about, without any kind of spoiler, it's something that Moana has. The thing that this movie is missing is something that Moana has, and it's something that Frozen has, and something that like many, not every, but many Disney movies have that add a certain significance to them. But it's and because this doesn't have it, it loses a little bit. But I still think this movie is if I have to be as critical as I can, it's a B, maybe even a B plus. It's good. In theaters, it felt because the theater gives you such a big, great experience where remember the animation's so good here that seeing it on big screen actually did make it more significant.
I'll definitely still watch this movie, but I'm glad to go in without like heightened expectations and thinking that it's going to be Disney at its best. All right, so for our last movie to talk about, this one's going to be me solo because Bob's actually watching it after we do this podcast. It's going to be director Ridley Scott's second big movie of this fall season, and definitely the lesser of the two, but not to say this is a bad movie. House of Gucci, starring Lady Gaga, starring Adam Driver, starring Al Pacino, Jeremy Irons, Salma Hayek, and who I honestly believe is the gives the best performance in the movie, but I've heard it is divisive, and I've heard a review saying that this guy ruined the movie, like is the worst part of this movie, but he's definitely my favorite part. Jared Leto. I loved him in this movie. That's kind of my biggest takeaway of the movie, honestly, is that Jared Leto's great in it. But to be honest, Lady Gaga is great in it. Adam Driver's solid in it. I've seen Adam Driver having more interesting characters, and I think that his character is good in this. But like comparing this to The Last Duel, I think his character in The Last Duel is a little more interesting. But his character in The Last Duel is just a little more showy. This is a fascinating movie. Again, it's a true story detailing the relationship between Patricia and Maurizio Gucci from the late 70s through the mid 90s. And this movie jumps around timeline wise. It takes liberties with real life occurrences, and there's a lot to enjoy in the sort of like it's an entertaining movie for much of it. I think it starts to drag towards the end when things start to change with the characters, but I just think if you like to see talented actors acting, there's quite a bit of that in this movie. Some of it subtle, some of it like very pronounced. The accents in this movie range from like Jeremy Irons barely does an accent, quite frankly, to Jared Leto, quite frankly, like doing a Luigi Mario, like, oh, I'm so Italian. But it's like endearing in a way. It like no one's really doing a proper Italian accent. Not even Al Pacino, to be honest. But it's like the movie takes itself seriously towards the end in ways that I kind of wish it didn't. I kind of wish it was a little bit more fun because it is kind of like a fun like it like the Jared Leto performance. The reason I like it is because it's not like so serious. Like it's kind of like heightened reality, and I think Lady Gaga is almost in a similar vein, but like this is probably her best acting performance. This is probably better than her in A Star Is Born. And it's just like there's like little bits of like camp to it that almost yeah. I wanted this movie to be better than it was. I still enjoyed it. Probably overall give it like a B plus. I still think it's worth watching, but I think it could have been better. Definitely. And it also good soundtrack, good music. There's a moment in the wedding scene in particular where you start hearing this organ music, and I'm like, this is familiar. I've heard this before. I know what this song is. And but I think, oh, but it's not this song. And then the song starts playing. I'm like, okay, this movie is kind of this movie is different than what I thought it was. And it kind of I don't think this movie knew what it was.
I don't know what this movie is either, so I have relatively low expectations, even based on what you just said right there. So I mean, we'll see what I think of it. I really don't even know. I've seen some of the commercials, but I still just don't really know anything. I think there's some kind of intrigue about a murder, maybe, but yeah, I don't want to know anything more, and I just want to go and watch it.
I knew what was coming in the movie, and I think it maybe would have been better had I not known the true story behind the movie. But B plus. There's a lot to like in it, but and I could see. I think this was meant to be like an Oscar movie, and it might get like an acting Oscar, but it's definitely no Best Picture. It's definitely no Best Director. I think Ridley Scott's other movie is far more deserving of that kind of praise. I think his other movies probably far more deserving of the acting wins, except supporting actor. I honestly think Jared Leto should at least be nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and I think that is a possibly hot take, but I think others agree with it. I think he was the highlight of the movie.
All right, cool. Well, at this juncture, we pretty much gotten to the end of our list of movies in our fall recap. So we're gonna move in. Oh,
real quick before we do spoilers, if you had to pick 3 movies off your list, what are the 3 you most think people should go see? What are they? For me, The Last Duel.
Yeah, Last Duel.
Ghostbusters. And I'll give my third recommendation to Last Night in Soho.
We have the same list. So, Ghostbusters is, if you like Ghostbusters, you should absolutely go see
that. That's actually why I didn't say Eternals, because I think that's very you need to be entrenched in the MCU to watch Eternals.
That's another thing, is that the Eternals, I think we all take it for, I at least take it for granted that it's like, oh, Marvel. Everybody loves Marvel, but not everybody actually does watch or care about Marvel.
Yeah, our mom doesn't give a shit about it.
Yeah, and if you were gonna go watch, like if I was gonna recommend a Marvel movie to go see, like if all of them were in theaters and I could say go watch one, I'd be like, go watch Black Panther or Shang-Chi, or I couldn't even say Endgame because you have to actually care and have watched most of them for that to be significant. I would not say Eternals, but if you didn't watch Ghostbusters, have no interest to watch a Ghostbusters movie, and you want to just go see a pretty good movie that you might be surprised at, Belfast is.
I think that's fair. I haven't seen it. My recommendation on Ghostbusters Afterlife is, if you haven't seen the original Ghostbusters, watch the original Ghostbusters, then go see Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah. I will say, though, even if you did that, even if you are like, oh, I never saw it, let me go watch the first movie, you're going to lose something, right?
Because you are grow losing up with some nostalgia.
Yeah. You didn't watch it at a time when the standards weren't like, we watched when we were kids, right? The standards for movies were like, this was a decent movie, right? Like seeing those effects and all the things that they're doing was cool for that time. You age it up a little bit and watch it now, it looks dated. It's, it's an older flick.
Yeah, but like dated movies can still be good. Star Wars looks dated in ways. Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader's fight.
The longer that fight is super dated, and everything that we've done since makes it look stupid.
Exactly.
Except if you take it in the opinion like, oh, they're such trained swordsmen that these subtle and small movements are more indicative of what it's like, for a really trained master. And I'm like, no.
You doing yoga? Because that's a mighty fine stretch.
That's what people will say about that fight.
No, yeah. And to make it work Star Wars wise, I get it, but
yeah, whatever. I'm not in love with Star Wars.
I think Ghostbusters holds up effect wise better than it should, quite frankly.
I think it was great for its time, and now it's a little dated and looks okay,
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's jump into some spoiler stuff. I know you have some ones you want to talk about, like Malignant.
Okay, so Malignant. Spoiler, the twist of the movie is that the main character girl, when she was a kid, she was abandoned by her mom because she had she had a growth growing out of the back of her head of a conjoined twin and this conjoined twin has like magic powers or something. And she was like in an asylum for like years where they were like studying the twin. And at some point he got so violent that they basically operated to like remove him and like close him off in the back of her head. But he was still in there in the back of the head. So at the beginning of this movie, when she is being domestically abused by her husband, he slams her head into a wall, basically like busting the back of her head open a little bit, allowing the brother inside her head to awaken. And then he begins taking control of her body and murdering people. So the visions she has are basically watching her self commit these murders. And this is revealed with her like body like sort of like contorting in a way where she's like she's walking backwards because it's the face in the back of her head that's operating. And it's actually kind of cool to watch. Like her basically moving around backwards. And there's a scene where she's arrested and there's like a cell filled with like probably like a dozen like different like women inmates. And the brother awakens and just murders all of them. And so it's stuff like this in the movie that's kind of cool and kind of makes me recommend it. But it's not a scary movie and it's really dumb.
You know, what you're describing to me right now sounds like a cool premise. And like I can imagine what you're saying, moving backwards. That like sounds like it could be really scary looking. Like I could be like, what the, you know.
But to be clear, this is a twist. You're not supposed to figure it out until like 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the movie. Like what I just described, the cell scene is the end of the movie. I started to figure it out a little before that. And I'm sure if you had watched it cold, you might start to pick up on it before the film says it. But yeah, and yeah, it's dumb, but it was kind of fun dumb towards the end that I was able to enjoy it.
It's funny because like your description makes me like want to see this movie more, even though like obviously you spoiled it, but it's like you saying that was like, well, that sounds kind of cool actually. Like that does sound like a unique idea of like how all these things would be happening.
But like the path to getting to it is, I can't. It spends too long thinking that you didn't figure out what's going on.
Oh
yeah, to like the point that's like the end of the movie when it's revealed.
Oh
yeah, but and that's why I said the title of the movie gives it away, Malignant. Because when you see it as a title just removed, you just see Malignant. Oh, it just means something bad or something. But then what's the most common association to Malignant?
A malignant tumor.
And that's what he kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Malignant. The next one I want to spoil is Halloween Kills.
Oh, yeah. Go. Yeah. So we can just shit on it.
Oh my God. Evil dies tonight.
But not really, though.
Yeah, he lives because there's another movie, because they advertised there's another movie when the last movie came out, that they were doing 2 more movies. So I knew that he wasn't going to die.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like we know that. And oh my God, this movie is just so bad. This movie tries to run multiple plots, right? It has some, it not only like doesn't take itself seriously enough in some scenes where it's just straight like dumb, like dude like bats a woman with gun in her hand and she shoots herself in the face.
That's honestly my favorite moment of the movie.
It's just like, what? Like
Little John and Big John.
Yeah, little John and Big John. Yeah. Oh, like one of them cowers as he's coming towards him and stuff. He's like, oh,
like over the top camp gays that you're like, oh, but they're fun though. They're dying, aren't they? They're gonna die. Every character in this movie that you've not seen before, they're dead.
Yeah.
At the end of this movie.
Yeah. All those like characters that seem really significant and cool because they were in the original movies, they all die. Every one of them.
That's the only reason they're in this movie, is to die.
Yeah. So he can come back and kill them all. Like
even some of the movie from the previous Halloween movie that survived.
Yeah.
Let's kill them off.
Yeah.
Everyone but Jamie Lee Curtis and Jamie Lee Curtis's granddaughter.
Yeah, that's it.
And the sheriff that we thought died in the last movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, he didn't die, by the way, guys. Got stabbed in the throat. Not dead. Not only is not dead, able to talk.
Yeah. And just like, then they just wheel him in.
It's
the hospital scene.
Yeah. The hospital. Everybody in the hospital literally becomes like freaking an angry mob and murders a crazy psychotic guy, which, hey, I actually like what they were trying to do there. But it
was so stupid.
Yeah.
The whole scene, like they're just rushing, chasing this guy down. And when Laurie's daughter like locks the guy in this hallway alone without her, like she could have just been there so that when the mob gets there, just be like, hey, it's not Michael. Like, you see me right here. I'm safe. He's not going to hurt me. He's not like, he knew. I also, again, an honest trailer, I believe, points out that the news broadcast of the escaped convicts shows Michael's face on TV, but they all say that no one's ever seen his face before. It's
oh God. So, and then at the end, right, Michael's alive, literally, gets like Oh, how do we finish?
Top murdered?
Yeah, how do we? Yeah, over the top, like completely just beat the hell up and then like stabbed in the back. But also again, every one of these movies, right? Why doesn't anybody know what the double tap is? Why isn't we need to make it like don't
cut his head off?
Yeah, blast his freaking brains out, blow his skull apart. Like don't like once that happens, I know we need a movie and he needs to be able to survive and blah blah. And they did that, he wouldn't be able to survive, blah blah blah. But it doesn't make logical sense. Like you guys are so afraid of him, but you just like you don't like make sure the job is done.
Yeah, someone left the knife sitting in his spinal cord.
Yeah,
which he just used to kill everyone with.
Yeah,
and then teleports. Like apparently he's got the teleportation Jason power now because he appears like in the middle of the street, kills all these people, and then gets past like a crew of like ambulances and cops to get into his house upstairs and murder Laurie's daughter at the end of the movie.
I think there is like a speculation belief that Michael Myers has the potential teleportation, because even in the movie it's suggested a little bit. It literally shows a point where like he's standing in front of a gate and then like turns or something, and then the other guy's distracted or whatever, and then like the gate hasn't moved, you didn't hear any noise, like you don't see any footprints on the other side, and like but he's gone, like he's clearly had to have moved through that gate or whatever.
I think the fact that they began the movie trying to give an excuse as to how he survived the fire from the last movie, like he went and hit off in a thing and then he's rescued. It makes every point to show that he's walking places. Like they showed like, oh, all these deaths line up to point in an arrow to his home. He's moving. He doesn't have that power. So, and giving him magic powers makes him less interesting.
Yeah.
He's so much a worse character because of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, now I do like what they try to do where Jamie says, he the more he kills and the more we fear him, the more he gains like a power. He becomes a force of nature and can't be stopped. I like that it's not like quite like he has a magic power, but there's some kind of like there is a force now behind him, like again it kind of implies like a magic-y kind of thing, but it's not quite that. He has become a force because he has done so much, blah blah blah. It's become a force of fear that cannot be stopped or whatever because of that, because he's done so much of this, even though it doesn't make quite sense. But it's the only way we can even somewhat justify how does he survive then? He just does. This is just putting it into words that he has become a force that cannot be stopped by normal means, like just stabbing him or cutting him or watching him. Like a thing that would normally take down a normal person, he's no longer a normal person. And so I'm not totally. It doesn't destroy me, but this movie is just it's still so bad. Even with like,
I think this movie is hot garbage.
Yeah, it's just not good,
but funny.
But yeah. I literally left this movie early to go basically. Another comment is that, and this actually did not have anything to do with like my review of the movie, was that I sat next to somebody who was literally being obnoxiously loud the entire time. That did, even if I was going to enjoy this movie more, completely like ruin my movie experience. So, but I might just like tough through it and keep watching the movie, but they were so annoying and that movie was so bad that I used them being annoying as my justification for getting my money back, or at least got a free movie pass from that movie, because I was like, this is terrible. Like, I wish I would have walked out and not finished watching it halfway. Like,
yeah. And I'm glad you got your money back. See, it is one of those things where it's like managed expectations. I knew it was probably going to be bad. And so the humor of the movie did carry me through enough that I had a good time, but it's a shit movie. Garbage, bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got any other spoilery talks you want to have?
Not. I could kind of go into spoilers on like House of Gucci, but you haven't seen that.
Yeah, no.
And then anything else that the only spoilers I wanted to talk about were for movies that I wanted to shit on.
Yeah. So otherwise, I mean, I don't really have any more comments to make. So
yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it then.
Yeah. Cool. So there's our fall
movie review. Recap.
Yeah. Recap. Roundup. Catch up. I don't know. We talked about movies. They happened in fall. You should go see some of them. They're still in theaters. Coming up soon, we are going to not only do a summer review. So most of those movies should be on their digital and or DVD equivalent, so you can catch them otherwise.
One would hope so.
And we're going to be talking about we're going to be doing a mid and a end season review for Hawkeye. So Hawkeye comes out this coming Wednesday, or the mid season comes out this coming Wednesday. So,
and I don't know if I really even want to do a full episode ending What If. If we don't do a full recap of What If, we might toss it into the Hawkeye episode.
Yeah, we might just get it in there so everybody can get the resolution that they've been waiting for. I don't know, like maybe a couple months now.
The end of What If, right now, it was okay.
It was all right. It was cool.
Yeah. Could have been better.
Yeah, and then we will also at the end of the year have a year in review. Top 10, top 5 movies.
Yeah, either each of us a top 10 or each of us a top 5, so it fills out 10 movies total. And if we'll try to avoid doing crossovers, but I think we could end up having the same number 1 movie of the year.
Yeah, at this point we already pretty much know what that is.
I do want to preface, we might just remove from contention all the Oscar movies, even though I watched all of them this year. Despite them being previous year movies, I'm just going to lump all of those movies as to the previous year because we've already talked about them. We've already ranked them.
Yeah. Also, we got Spider-Man No Way Homecoming, and that could be this is the best movie of the year. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It just will be.
Yeah. I mean,
honestly, I think it'll be disappointing.
The bar's high. The bar's freaking high.
I'm sure I will be disappointed, but I will still have a great time because it's the Spider-Mans, and I like the Spider-Mans. It's why I like the Venom movie so much because it's still kind of Spider-Man.
Kind of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it for now, folks. And yeah, this has been Robert
and Ryan.
Until next time.
Yep.